I've never heard anyone refer to the Neo-Saban era of Power Rangers as a good time for the franchise. The blame for this era of Power Rangers usually gets stuck to Haim Saban and his company Saban Brands. If you somehow are not aware, these people actually made Power Rangers in the first place. In fact, the latter half of the first Saban era is usually considered the golden age of Power Rangers by many. Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, and Time Force are often considered franchise pinnacles. So this leaves many skeptical as to whether it really could be Saban's fault despite owning the franchise during the time of the Neo-Saban era. I mean, he made such good shows, how could he screw up this badly? So the question stands, is it really all Saban's fault? I'm here to answer that today. Here we go. So first up we have the toys, and this was a huge issue at the time. And I can speak personally, as you can see I have the Samurai Megazord. When I first received this for Christmas it was the coolest thing ever, but then I fell into Sentai due to the internet and I saw what the Japanese toys looked like, and this was just made of cheap plastic and it couldn't fold or anything. The easy blame for the toys is Bandai of America. You see, in Japan they actually make really solid toys that replicate what you see in the show. However, in America they have a reputation for not doing that, and it got really bad during this era. Next up we have the Super Seasons, and these were also pretty problematic. These seasons basically just split up one show that could have aired throughout 1 year into 2 shows with half of the episodes for each. It was unnecessary, made us as fans not hyped, made them have to skip over seasons, and overall was just not a good practice. The fault for this was the distributor, Nickelodeon. The network has a stupid rule about one season of any show being limited to only 20 episodes. And so that they didn't only use 20 episodes worth of footage, they decided to make a second season which would have the other half of the footage. This is one of the areas that the fans care about the most, because we'd see things like Samurai being a watered down version of Shinkenger, and also things like no Go Busters adaptation or no ToQger adaptation. And in reality, it's kind of all Toei and Bandai's fault. When Saban got the franchise back, he dreamed of a Shinkenger adaptation that would use cool new things to differentiate it, including international rangers and stuff like that. The writers at Toei said, no, you're gonna make it as close to Shinkenger as possible. The team was also planning for a full-on Gokaiger adaptation to happen. However, the people at Toei said, no, we want you to do Goseiger as well because it'll make more sense. And as for no Go Buster or ToQger adaptations, well, Bandai kind of forced them to do the seasons that they wanted them to do. We don't officially know if Saban was actually planning to do them, but we do know that Bandai was definitely acting as a wall. This is because Beast Morphers is actually a Go Busters adaptation, and it did initially have Saban involvement. And the big boy in the writing. There is no doubt in my mind that some of the cheese and the cringe that we saw in all 4 of these seasons did come from the Saban team. Saban did write Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. These shows seem kinda similar to MMPR in that way, plus there was the MMPR rehashing of themes, an MMPR movie, an MMPR Boom comic series. It's clear that Saban was feeling a little bit nostalgic. So obviously a little blame has to be taken out on Saban. However, as I said, some dictations were made by other people over at Toei, which may have actually really affected how the show would have run. And I also think that Nickelodeon had to do a little bit with the writing. The original Saban seasons and the way they were written weren't really good for the channel and the demographic they wanted to go for. So I do think that the preschoolification was caused by Nickelodeon. Obviously, being distributors is huge, and they do get to dictate what goes on their channel. So overall, I do think that some of the atrocities that we would see were definitely Saban's fault. They're not perfect, obviously, but We can't blame it entirely on them, as there were companies that made it even worse for their situation. In conclusion, the faults are split up between multiple corporations. It ain't the fault of just one guy, kids.